Hello, I'm Cassie, and welcome to my kitchen. And in my kitchen today, we're going to be carving pumpkins. So today's video is going to be a little bit different because we're not going to be cooking anything, but we're going to be carving a pumpkin. Well, actually we're going to be carving two pumpkins because I've got this little tiny gourd pumpkin. I'm not sure what it is, but I have a small one as well as this giant white one. This year, instead of doing something scary, I thought I would go with something a bit more cute. So I'm going to be carving My Neighbour Totoro. And I was trying to decide between these two. This one is definitely cuter, but I think this one has a bit more of a jack-o'-lantern vibe because of this crazy sort of Cheshire cat smile. So I'm going to go with this one. And for this smaller pumpkin, I'm going to do this little soot sprite that also comes up in My Neighbour Totoro. I thought it would go quite well on the side. So the orange parts are just going to be the skin that I'm going to leave like that. I know I have a white pumpkin, but I have more of an association with orange and pumpkin, so I'm going to keep it this way. So the orange is the skin that I'm going to leave, the white is where I'm going to cut out, and the yellow, or the sort of yellowy beigey colour, is going to be where I just carve away at the skin but don't carve away a hole completely. That way we can keep these little triangles here. Also, I tried to find out if Totoro has 3 triangles on the top or 4, but when I looked at official designs, then it looked like it changed depending on what you were looking at. So I'm going to go with 3 just because it's easier. And for this little guy, I'm just going to sort of carve out a big circle where I'm just going to pare away at the skin, and then I'm going to keep the skin completely on for the soot sprite itself. Because that way I feel that when we put the light inside, then the soot sprite is going to be black, which is what they're supposed to be. And for this pumpkin, because it's so small, I'm going to carve away on, well actually there's this sort of ugly part here, so I'm going to carve away this part as the lid, and I'm going to take it out that way. So I'm going to just put a little triangle here so that it can stay on. But if I were to cut it this way and cut it off like a normal lid, then there's going to be basically no space for the design itself. So I'm just going to cut it out of the back. So first of all, I need to de-seed this pumpkin. So you probably know what to do here. We're just going to cut off the top and then we're just going to scoop out the insides. And I have this kind of a little pumpkin carving kit. I'll put a link down to a similar one below, or the same one if I can find the same one. These are really useful. I used to have these in the UK, and you can use normal kitchen knives, but I find that they're a little bit more hard to control and can end up being a bit more dangerous. Whereas with something like this mini saw, then there's a lot more control and you can do a lot more of the finer detail as well. So let's get carving. So I've started off just by drawing a line around the top so that I can follow that line and cut it out. So this is kind of interesting. I've never had a white pumpkin before. The inside is just completely white. It's very cool, very spooky. So now I just want to get rid of any of the stringy parts, even on the lid as well. Now we're just going to take out all the seeds from inside. To do the exact same thing for our mini one, but as I said, we're going to be cutting out the back rather than the top so that we have some space for the design, and I don't think this is going to fit in there, so I'm going to just have to use a normal spoon. So I've put a sort of triangle here and a semicircle here so that it will hopefully stay on a little bit more easily, and also it will be easier to find the top and the bottom. Wow, this one is really tough. Okay. So this little gourd is really hard. So seeing how much effort it took just to make this lid, then I'm just going to have a little experiment on the back here to see how easy it is to just pare away some of the skin, because that is what this design is supposed to be. So I'm just going to experiment with that before I commit to the design. So although it wasn't the easiest thing, this tool did make it a lot more doable, and I was able to pare off in the triangle shapes. But now that I've experimented a little bit, I'm just going to commit to those designs and draw them onto my pumpkins. So I've drawn the designs onto the pumpkins, but it looks like this soot sprite is actually going to be harder to draw than Totoro, so I'm going to start with this one. And all I'm going to be doing is pairing around the outside so that we are left with the design in the middle, and then I'll just cut out the eyes. I feel like the eyes are going to be pretty difficult too, but we'll see how it goes. Because this little gourd is so tough, this chisel tool actually got away from me and landed on my finger. I decided to edit out the real world Halloween gore, but please be careful if you are carving anything other than a normal pumpkin with these tools, or any sharp tools for that matter. The eye is splitting just here, so I think it's gonna break off, but I guess we'll find out in a second. But if it does, we can just put it back together with a toothpick, so don't worry too much. So it did actually break off, but I used a toothpick and super glue to put it back together. And at the back, then the little triangle also came out, so I've just stuck a toothpick there to stop it from falling down. So it's not perfect, but once you switch off the lights, then it will look the same. Now on to Totoro. This one is much easier to saw. Okay, I'm just gonna clean this guy up and then let's put him side by side with the soot sprite and see what they look like in the dark. Boo! Happy Halloween! Even though this one is smaller, it was definitely the harder of the two, and in comparison, this one just seemed so easy. So if you are going to get a small hard gourd like this, be very careful because you might end up with a little injury. Today was a special Halloween episode, so we won't be having another episode this Sunday, but make sure to look out for the next episode the following Sunday. See you next time. Bye!